With that, we introduce Joe Bartello. He is an independent candidate for Sunbury mayor. He's been on city council. That's the experiences that he has that I know of. Of course, I know that you're a member of St. Pius. Are you a member of the church over there?
Yes, I am.
St. Pius X Church in Selinsgrove, the Catholic Church, and I see you at That Man Is You, the Saturday morning discussion sessions.
The leadership class.
Leadership, okay. Is that what we're supposed to be picking up from that? Okay.
Male leadership, yeah.
Fantastic. All right, well, good. Well, thank you. All right, well, welcome aboard.
Yeah, nice to see you again, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
Tell me about Joe Bartello, the candidate for mayor.
Well, I was on city council from 2010 to 2013, so I do have experience. And I was involved in I tried to be involved in most of the things in the city, but there's some things you're not privy to when you're in there. Just like now, it'd be nice to be able to know more about the budget, to know more about what's going on there. Last year they had no public meetings, and this year there's been no discussion of the budget at all in the city. So be interesting to get in there and see what kind of hole they have us in.
Budget workshops at this moment are conducted at public meetings. They're done in sort of a committee fashion.
They used to be, but starting last year, they did away with the public meetings, and Kevin would meet with each individual council person, and then they just came together and voted on a budget, and that was that.
Okay. All right. More about Joe and what you'd like to see change.
I'd like to see more people at the meetings. That would be nice to see the town be more involved in what's going on. I think right now the people just don't feel like that their opinion counts, and they just either don't go for whatever reason. But I've tried over the years with videotaping it to try and get more people interested and more people to see that it's not the big spooky scary thing that they think it is. It's just a good meeting where people should go and be able to be involved in their community.
Okay.
So I think when people feel disenfranchised from their community, that they lack interest in it, and that's one reason we only have about 10% of the people in the city that actually vote. Which is, I'd like to see that number go up a lot. It would be nice to see a lot larger turnout in this election, especially.
All right. Other aspects of the city you want to talk about today?
I think on your email you said we were going to talk about the police department. And,
sure. Well, let me keep asking you a question. All right. So, more about you. What have you done in your life? What do you do for a living? That kind of thing.
I'm an engineer at Modular Home Factory. So I design the homes and the drawings for the factory. Like right now, I've been working on hotels and dormitories, those types of buildings. So I'm very familiar with the codes, the state codes and what's expected as far as building design.
Okay, so
I'm on the Hill Neighborhood Committee. I'm a board member on that, so I know most of the people at SRI too. I'm familiar with what they're doing in the city. I'm on the Northumberland County Fair Board and involved with that. I've been in different boards throughout, like the Save the Prison Committee. I was on that with Victoria Rosencrantz and those guys. And thankfully, we got that place, with Mr. Wahlberg's. Thank you very much to him for buying that property and saving it.
Okay. All right, so that's a little bit about your background. Policing, what changes, if any, would you make in the police department? What are your thoughts on how the city polices?
Well, right now, they're having their problems right now. They're just manpower problems. But they only have 10 full-time officers, and right now there's only 6 of them that are actually working the street. So it's not. The first thing I would change is all 10 would be working the street. There wouldn't be just 6 of them, because we gotta have more manpower on the street patrolling. that we have to increase safety in the city and restore law and order. If we ever expect to revitalize this town, it has to be perceived as a safe place to be. That's when you read all these things in the newspaper constantly. That perception isn't there. I know they want it to look that way, but to the general public, it's not the perception they're putting off at the moment.
All right. How would you want more police officers? How would you pay for them?
Well, right now, there's more grant money available coming out from Attorney General Sessions. There's another $100 million that they just released for local departments to do some hiring. I hope that they're applying for those grants right now because that money's going to go quick. But those types of things are the things we're going to have to do. I have to talk to our representatives, Barletta and Marino, and see what's available, what they can do to help us, and see if they can get us some money. You have to be the squeaky wheel. You got to go after the stuff. You can't just sit back and wait for what's going to come to you. You got to get up and get out there and find it. So that's what I plan to do. I plan to be very active in getting out there and looking for the things that are going to help Sunbury. I'm not going to be happy just sitting back and waiting. I'm not that type of person. I want to see results, and I want to get out there and do it.
All right. And you've been to a lot of city council meetings. Most city council meetings, you're there?
Yeah, I haven't missed a city council meeting in 5 years. I've been recording them and put them on YouTube.
And are you doing the videotaping? I know that...
Yeah, I do the videotaping.
All right. Well, good. Well, that's a good resource for people. A lot of people like to watch those. And the Sunbury American newspaper, is that yours?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, if folks haven't seen it, it's got a lot of information in it about what's going on in the city and the downtown and
the county in general. Yeah, try and keep people... I try and do the stories that the other people aren't doing and try and keep the people informed on what's going on.
All right, we have a question that relates to the city of Sunbury. Paul, go ahead briefly. You have a brief floor here. Go ahead.
All the candidates that talk about wanting to run for an office such as mayor, my question is this: what caused the condition that Sunbury is in now, and how are you going to eliminate the problem when the chief factor is money?
All right. Yep, you can answer that. Keep the headphones on. Go ahead. All right, thank you, Paul. We'll let him answer that.
What was the first part of that question?
Well, I just let him go. Paul, are you still there? Nope, he's gone. Okay. Well, with the city of Sunbury, it has a number of dilemmas. Money is part of the issue. How can you help solve those problems?
Well, the money, a lot of things they do in the city, they'll disagree with me, but they pay 2 and 3 times for each thing they do. Between having employees and then also having outside companies that come in and do the same thing, there's a lot of pork in there, and I want to go over that line by line and see where we can tighten our belts a little bit to get some money. The first things we have to do are things that aren't going to really cost a ton of money, which is just keeping the place clean. We have guys that go down the street every morning and empty the garbage cans. All they have to do is bend over and pick up an extra piece of garbage, or take a few steps to the side and get that extra soda cup that's laying on the ground. Pick those things up. Or even if we had one guy with a leaf blower going down through there and spraying all the cigarette butts into the street so the street cleaner can get them. It's just little things that we could do. That it's not a lot of effort, and it wouldn't cost any extra money because the guy is already going down through there anyway. Keeping our street lights lit, asking the store owners to leave their storefront window, the windows lit up at night so that so things are lit up better. It'll also protect their storefronts. When the police are cruising by, they can see if something's going on there better.
We have some street lights that are out.
All the time. There's at least a handful of street lights that are constantly out on Market Street.
And who does that? The city or PPL does that?
They're the city lights. Jim Eister's in charge of those.
Okay, so and then they slowly get to them and replace them as time goes on. So you'd like to see that faster.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's our responsibility, and that when prospective businesses come through and they see our street lights out, they see trash on the ground, especially Edison Plaza. That's notorious, and the railroad tracks are notorious for garbage all over them. And it's when they see those kind of things, they think that we're not serious about our downtown. And then there's too many. I mean, she said that there's no. I mean, Beth, my opponent, she said that there's all the downtowns in the area are suffering, but I think Lewisburg would beg to differ. I think Selinsgrove would probably beg to differ too. That, you know, those two towns are doing pretty well, but they spend a lot of money on their downtowns. They do a lot of attention on their downtowns. You know, they work hard at it.
All right. Well, they also have colleges, which doesn't hurt anything.
No,
but
it doesn't hurt. We have a lot of their students that live in Sunbury too, in the rental housing.
All right. The state of Sunbury. What's your view of the state of Sunbury?
Well, it's just like our master plan said. With the lack of jobs in the city, we have a predominantly lower to low mid income families that live in town, and by no fault of their own, they just don't have the money to keep their properties up as good as they should. And property maintenance isn't cheap. You know that. You know, painting your house or putting a roof on, that's expensive. And bringing better paying jobs into town would do a lot. If we had the jobs, even the jobs that are in our surrounding community, if they were in Sunbury, and people were able to walk to work or walk to their shopping, and not have to get in their car for everything, the research shows that one less car in a family will give you the ability to finance an extra $150,000 in first or second mortgage, because the expenses that go with that car take up that kind of money. So if people didn't need as many cars as they do, it would alleviate our parking problems in town. It would, they would have the money to put into their homes. And a lot of them are just car poor because you're paying expenses on 3 cars because you have to drive to everything.
And what would the Sunbury mayor do to solve that kind of domino effect?
I would have to be out searching for businesses to come here. And first thing I'd like to do would be to take tours of the empty factories that we have now and talk to the people that own them, see what they have to offer, and then call the site selectors and see what companies are out there looking, and give them a list of what we have available. Because I don't think these properties in town are really being marketed as good as they should be.
We are talking to Joe Bartello. He is running for Sunbury mayor. We know him as a person who's been on city council and publishes the Sunbury American newspaper, which you can pick up at various locations in the downtown. And we're going to keep talking to him about the important issues of the campaign. We'll be back in a minute here on WKOK. All right, welcome back to the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show on the Mark. We thank everybody for listening. If you have a question for our guest right now, call us right now, 1-800-795-9565. That's the Hometown Pharmacy's toll-free line. We have a few minutes left with our guest here, Joe Bartello. He's a former Sunbury City Council member, and he's running for mayor now. The police department, tell us in greater detail how the city could be safer if maybe some changes were made there.
Originally, just a few minutes ago, I told you I'd like to see all the police officers working the street, because we really need 2-man shifts. That's very important. It's not safe having one guy out there by himself, and it's putting a lot of pressure on the surrounding communities for mutual aid. Every time there's a call, Northumberland has to send somebody over, or Shamokin Dam. And I don't think Shamokin Dam's a full-time police department. I think that's only during the day. But we could do the 2-man patrolling all the time. We could do saturation patrols on various nights with even more officers. We have to attack the drug problem much harder. We have an opioid epidemic in this county, and like everyone else in this country does, and we have to find a way to stem that. A drug dog is something I would really like to see again. Hopefully we can do that through grants or donations like they did before. We definitely need cameras that work. We can't be saddled with these cameras that don't see anything. And I think the school district does have money available for a resource officer at the school district, which I think would be something that should be talked about and eventually put in place.
And so, but how would you impact that as mayor?
I would have to enter into talks with the school district and give them my feelings on it and try and convince them to do it. I mean, if nobody says anything to them, they're not gonna do it. Somebody has to bring it up. So I figure it would be my place as mayor to do it.
Okay.
Right now the chief situation has to be looked at too, because right now we have three high-priced guys on our team that we just have to make a decision. We can't just keep continuing, because that's preventing us from hiring more patrolmen. If we could somehow get that under control, and we could, in my opinion, we had a successful chief for 6.5 years. He was a working chief who was accessible to the public. He was involved in the community, well liked by the people, and lived in town. And I'd like to see a chief like that again.
And who is that chief you'd like to see similar again?
Chief Mazzio.
Okay. And who are the three high-priced officers, and how much are they paid?
Chief Miller, Patrolman Mazzio, and Captain Bennick are the three high-priced ones that we have. I think Mr. Chief Miller, I think, is getting about in the 80,000 range. Might be as high as 86,000. And Captain Bennick's the second highest paid, and then Patrolman Mazzio has, I think he's in the mid-60s. Maybe.
Okay, but you're not sure. But nonetheless, you know that they're the highest priced ones. Okay, back to other aspects of the police departments. What would you change? We have about 5 minutes left.
Well, that's about all I had for the police department. If we want to move on to another subject.
You said you want to attract businesses. What kind of businesses are you doing? We had industry, sort of big, not smokestack industry per se, well, other than Celotex, but sort of hands-on physical manufacturing industry. What would you like to see in Sunbury next?
I'd like to target the emerging technologies. The more the science, the STEM fields, advanced material manufacturing systems, more food sciences and environmental science companies, bio-based products, information technology, even more trucking and distribution firms with logistics that pay. These are the companies that pay good wages, that $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, which is the kind of jobs that we need in town. That right now, even with the unemployment numbers this morning, we should look more at the underemployment numbers. There may be low unemployment numbers, but these are a lot of minimum wage jobs that people are forced into working in. And that's one reason they can't afford to do the proper home maintenance. That's one reason they can't afford to shop in our downtowns and the malls and the Kmart that's leaving. We need those high-paying jobs more than that's the first step. We need that in order to we bring in a job that's going to affect our economy that way and expand our tax base. That's going to give us the extra revenue that we need. The revenue you were asking about earlier, about where do we get the money for the new officers? Where do we get the money for this? How can we lower taxes? By expanding that tax base. That's the only way it happens. We have to expand that tax base.
All right. We have a caller. Billy, you're on the mark. You get 1 minute with our guest. Please, go right ahead.
Appreciated Paul's question earlier because it goes back to kind of fundamental issues of what I feel like the things that the candidate there is talking about are, not that I disagree with his approach, but they're kind of fixing their Band-Aids on the symptoms of the problem. And I think when you look at the Shikellamy School District and the Milton School District, both are, lower performing school districts compared with just the other public schools in the state. I think if there were other private schools, if there was some competition, studies show that where there's more school choice, the public schools actually perform better. And I think that would raise the area up and dealing with more of the cause of some of the issues in Sunbury over Band-Aids. But I'd love to hear what the candidate has to say about trying to attract other private schools and supporting school choice.
All right. School choice and attracting more private schools. Thank you, Billy.
I agree with him 100%. I went to St. Michael's all the way up to 8th grade, and I know private schools are a good thing to have, and I know a lot of people in town still to this day lament the fact that St. Michael's wasn't able to continue in the city. But I would more than welcome it. I would even seek them out, try and get private schools to come here. We have a few empty schools right now that they could go into. I know the Edison School is empty, and the middle school is currently empty too. But
all right, we have about a minute left. We'll give you a closing comment. What would you like to say?
Please get out and vote on November 7th on Tuesday. We have a lot of good things going on in Sunbury at the moment, and we got to keep it going. And we have a great opportunity here to change the direction of the way the city's going, and to get somebody in there that's really willing to go the extra mile to get the things that the city needs.
All right, very well. Yes or no answer. One of our listeners said earlier, if the mayor currently is dismissive of some of the comments in the audience, how would you treat people in the audience at council? Real quickie here.
It's open. Just come and say anything you want. I want to talk about everything at the meetings. There won't be any more hindering of the public. Okay, thank you so much. You're listening to On the Mark on WKOK Sunbury. Joe Bartello on show.